Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akaman. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Long build-up.
Sammy Davis.
Oh, Sammy Davis. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Bar Rescue After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. If you haven't already done so, go to youtube.com/AfterBuzz TV and subscribe. Or, if you're on iTunes, leave a rating and comment. And, of course, we're here talking all things Bar Rescue. Irish Eyes Aren't Smiling episode. We have the lovely Dorinda Barker.
Hi, guys.
We have Ashley Daniels.
Hi.
We are missing from tonight's action Kevin Undergaro and Mia Mastriani. They will be back in the new year in 2015, but joining tonight we have special guest from the episode, Gavan Murphy, who has popped this cherry on an episode of Bar Rescue, and now the Bar Rescue After Show!
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
Hello, Gavan.
Hey, what's happening?
We usually start with overall impressions.
Yeah.
But why don't we start with you, overall impressions of doing your first Bar Rescue episode?
My first one was an Irish bar for an Irish guy, which is kind of stereotypical, but I have to say it was just the best fun I've had for a week. It was intense, and it was everything I kind of expected, but a lot of new stuff because it was a brand new production. With a show like this, they bring a lot of new experts in all the time, and they start to bring back people that they like and people that are good for the brand.
Well, they brought you back for another one.
I did do another one.
Is that a spoiler?
Maybe, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it. So
there you go.
But there is one coming up next year. But when you come into a show like this and they have a lot of these people and they've done a lot of Bar Rescue shows, it's their fourth season, it's the end of the fourth season. You never know how people are going to receive you. It's just another person coming in. It's the show, whatever. Everybody was fantastic. They brought us in. Jerry was the other expert on there, and both of us did our first show. But it was just a great experience for me. So I was super excited to be asked.
And I guess while we're talking about this, how did you kind of get involved with this? I mean, you and I spoke a little bit off air, and you said that you watched the show, so you were familiar.
Yeah.
But how did you know John beforehand? Because sometimes he'll know the experts.
Sure. I got an email. And I will, remember this. I got an email on a Tuesday morning from a casting agent saying that they were casting a Irish chef for an Irish bar, for Bar Rescue, and she wanted to see if I was interested. I think I emailed back within about 30 seconds. I said, yes, I am interested. So we set up a Skype interview, and she told me that it was for season 5. So I was like, okay, I've got a few months for that, so that's fine. And then on the Saturday morning, I was at my son's soccer practice. He's 2.5, and I got a phone call saying that the EP would like me to come and do an episode. I was like, great. In January, February, can you come on Monday to Milwaukee to shoot an episode? I guess they had moved the episode forward. Mm-hmm. Weather, whatever, up in the Midwest. So I said, yeah, packed a bag, didn't know anything about what I was getting into, and arrived in Milwaukee to shoot the episode. That was it. That was it, and there it was.
Here's my question, and I've asked. I think one of us have asked. What did you think of Tapper? Was he a little intimidating the first time you met him, or what did you think when you met him? Well, I know what we thought when we met him.
I mean, you see him, and he's a big guy. I have to say, the first time I met him, we were doing a walkthrough in the bar. Obviously, it was off camera. It was just, it was like a production meeting. And I went up and I introduced myself straight away to him, and he looked at me and he said, "Thanks very much for coming." He shook my hand and gave me a big smile. And when the host, does that of a very popular show, it immediately puts you at ease. but I'd already been kind of at ease because the crew had obviously embraced us. But he was unbelievably gracious, and he made the experience fantastic. I mean, I've nothing.
But do you still feel pressure because whether or not he knows you, you're still there to perform a job,
Of course.
and you're the expert, right?
Yeah.
So it's one thing to be on the show and you're being berated for not being good at what you do,
Right.
But now you have the total opposite, where you're expected to be amazing at what you do.
Like a phenomenal chef who comes in who is an expert in this field, and I'm in essence auditioning for this show. I mean, I've been offered the part, but if you don't do any good at the part, you're not coming back for the second one. I didn't really feel any pressure. I think maybe it was a lot easier because it was Irish food, which I don't typically cook here in Los Angeles, because I specialize more in kind of healthy cooking and more of kind of in the fitness market. But I grew up in Ireland for 30 years. I trained as a chef in Ireland. I worked in restaurants and hotels in Ireland, so I know Irish food like the back of my hand. So I didn't feel pressure. I think I probably had the advantage that I wasn't going into a very unfamiliar situation. But I didn't feel any pressure with it now.
What was the process for you picking the food that you were going to have on the menu at the end? You made that beef. It was like a beef stew.
Beef and Guinness stew. I'll tell you what the biggest.
I love beef and Guinness.
What do you say?
I love beef and Guinness too.
I'll tell you what the biggest issue is when we walked into the kitchen and realized they didn't have a stove. And that was the first time we realized when all of us walked in together, John included, and we walked in and we were, there isn't really anything in here to cook with. There was the, fat fryer, which was all kind of encased, and there was a grill. And that was pretty much it. So that determines really what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Like I had all these things in my head. I'm going to do, like brown soda bread and make fresh bread and do all this sorts of stuff, which would have been pretty easy to do for them. But when you don't have an oven, it's really tough to make bread.
Of course.
So, that's a perfect segue kind of into the recon of this. And I believe it was you who said, like, how can you run a bar when you're in the kitchen?
Yeah.
That's what, and that's we find that I want to do one day like a rundown of things that we see on all these bar rescues, but a lot of bar owners they've been hiding as of late, certainly in the kitchen.
That was the guy in Philly, the Philly guy that we just did with the divorced wife.
Yeah.
He was the same way. He would just sit in the kitchen and drink in the kitchen, which it seemed like that's what Packy was doing.
That's exactly what Packy was doing. Listen, he knew exactly what's going on in his bar. It's not like he couldn't see the bar because they had that kind of little kind of cubby hole they passed the food out, which is something like a little prison door.
Right.
So, you can see the bar right there. It's not like it's a million miles. It was. But, but he was just avoiding having to deal with it because it's his best friend, who's his buddy, who came over all the way from Dublin with him. So, he doesn't want to confront him. He just wants things to kind of glide along, and he was quite happy to do that.
Well, yeah, and not that I want to jump too far ahead, but when Taffer told him, like, hey, listen, who's been the most irresponsible person here? It's been your friend, Guppy, and who did you put in charge last night? Him. He couldn't even walk, and you left him to do this. So was that so I thought that really hit it home because it was to me it was a nice gesture that they rekindled their friendship, but you don't put that responsibility on him right away.
On a guy who was mooning the crowd and in between some lady's thighs.
Was it her thighs or her breasts?
No, it was her boobs. I think it was her boobs.
Okay. Well,
Hey, listen, they're both pretty bad.
Yeah,
it was bad territory.
It was in that area, and it was kind of blurred out, and I was like, oh, okay. But what did he do, like 10 drinks?
Oh, wait.
15, they said.
No, 10 just on the night that we were doing the recon. But, the drinking that was done before all of that was just, in the 20s, just a crazy amount of drink.
It really wasn't exaggerated. That
no.
I
That was
cannot
a
believe
fact.
he was alive. Like, after
he was drinking that
much.
amount of alcohol. And
Do you pull him aside and do you say...
Your liver is just pickled by that point, so it doesn't even matter how much you drink.
No.
But do you pull him aside and say, like, hey, listen, I don't know if you're trying to do this for the cameras or not, but you can't be doing this.
No, this is how he was. This is how he was before we even got there. This is just who he is. I think the backstory was that he had an accident years and years ago, and he kind of had, he was... I believe he was, he had been on death's door, and he just came back and just decided, I'm just going to go and do whatever I want to do. So I believe that's what the backstory was.
That makes sense. I can see that.
And just really just decided to throw it all against the wind and see what happened. But drinking was his thing.
And you have to remember the cameras are on a few days beforehand, so they get very used to them.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
they forget they're there very quickly.
Right.
What did John say in one of the interviews he said within 4 hours or 24 hours, people forget that they're there.
Yeah.
And those cameras are up for how long again?
They're a long time, yeah.
They're up for a couple of weeks beforehand, for sure. But I mean, they're kind of hidden, so yeah, you know, they're there, but it's not like you can see, you know, the cameras kind of looking at you. So you know, they're kind of inconspicuous, and they just kind of get on with their daily lives in there.
I mean, was there, when you guys obviously noted like there was nothing Irish about it. What was the thought behind it, even from Packy's standpoint? Because he had a dream at one point. What was the dream?
Well, the dream was to bring a piece of Ireland to Milwaukee. That's really what he wanted to do. You know, in essence, when Jerry and I walked in there for the recon, it just looked like a room with some slot machines and some tables and a bar. Did
it look like at least like okay, forget Irish aside, but was it a good looking bar in any sense?
It was disgusting. It smelled, and it was filthy. It just like there was nothing appealing. I mean, I would never go into a bar like that. I mean, it was the only bar in that general area. There was a couple of nice bars up the street, but it was just there was nothing attractive about the place at all.
Because when you're paying attention, I think they're going towards the kitchen. You see that side off area. It was white blah with basic chairs, basic tables, nothing there. There was nothing to it. There was no life.
Nothing. There was just tables and chairs in a room, basically, is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, and I can just imagine, because when I looked at that bar, I could just imagine the smell. There's that smell that you can always tell if a bar is clean or not.
Even by the rug, too. Look at the carpet.
Multiply that smell by about 10 and you probably have it close.
Well, they mentioned throw up a couple of times.
Yeah.
I'm just like, the smell of that does not go away. So I just can't imagine how many people maybe throw up on that carpet. Just alone.
I don't understand why people do carpet in a bar. I will never understand that to the day I'm down under. I just don't get it. Because
I don't either.
So many things.
Gross.
Yes. Anyway, that's
filthy. I hate carpet.
I hate carpet too.
I hate carpet too. This is just a hating carpet show.
okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Now we all have something in common.
We do. We should be friends.
We should. Carpet's the worst. Babies, dogs, don't get it.
Don't get it.
What I do want to talk about in the recon when John sends you guys in, and Jerry orders a dry martini. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And then Guppy goes, "Oh, no, I'll give you a dirty martini." I was like, "Oh, great. Now you're telling us what to drink. That's awesome." I always love when the bartender tells me what I'm going to drink.
Well,
Unbelievable.
Here's the thing about the recon. We only found out about that probably like 20 minutes beforehand that the two of us were going in there, which I guess makes sense now. Of course, it makes perfect sense because we were both first-timers going to an Irish bar. But we had to walk in there and make up a whole story. And we're walking across the street, and I'm saying to Jerry, what do we, we're two guys walking to an Irish bar, so we got to come up with like some sort of story. So the story, because they honed in on us straight away, and they're like, "So you guys are Irish. What are you doing here?" So we said that our flight from Chicago got diverted to Milwaukee because of some bad weather, but we're driving back to Milwaukee in the morning to catch a flight back to Ireland because we're going on vacation because we're buddies, and like it started to go off in this tangent. I was like, okay, we got to slow it down a small bit. And then they started asking, "So, what do you do?" Which is a normal question.
Yeah.
So I said I was an actor, and this is my accountant. And we just went with it, and they didn't ask any more questions. That was it. I mean, what are you going to say?
An actor and his accountant, of course.
Yeah, obviously, they're two best friends going to work.
Of course.
Makes a lot of
It was
sense.
completely on a level. It was like nothing.
They probably just didn't question it because it was so strange. Like, oh, well, I don't understand that.
Yeah. But as soon as we walked in, everyone turns around, and they're like, "What's going on?" And just, "With 2 pints, please."
And then, how were you guys instructed? Were you guys instructed to just go with the flow, or if you saw bugs in your drinks, were you told like, "Hey, braise it up as an issue"?
Just to kind of go in and just get a feel for the place initially was just to kind of, see what, how Guppy was going to react to us with the drinks. Obviously, I mean, make a point between ourselves just conversationally, "Oh, look, there's, there's some flies in here. Jerry had a good line. There was some fruit flies in his drink, and he says, you should serve this with a fishing rod, or we could go fly fishing. Which I thought was which was a pretty good line. The two of us cracked up with that, so that was pretty good. But we just went in and just wanted to see what the whole vibe of the place was and see how the service was.
Yeah.
See how the drinks were. Clearly, they weren't up to snuff.
Now, was this the first time you met Jerry too?
Yeah, I met Jerry about 6 hours before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Irish guys, we just kind of, went for lunch and that was it. We're like best buddies.
That is very true.
An actor and his accountant. Why not?
Why not?
I wanted to ask you this, in terms of the spirit of the employees, do you think it waned because they weren't getting paid, or kind of, where do you think it started? Because obviously he, Packy, focused on his family, and that's where they said it went downhill.
Right.
But then also, we're never giving a clear timeline of when the payment stopped for the employees, and so, obviously that led to theft and everything else. But unlike other times, Tafford really didn't go hard in on them,
right.
Because you could see, like, hey, if you're not paying your employees, that's not.
You don't really have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't start calling somebody out for stealing if you're not paying her in the first place. It is stealing, but she's just trying to get. She's working for nothing then, in essence, and she has kids to pay for. Summer had 3 kids, so yeah. I mean, both are wrong. Which is worse? You got to pay your employees. That's the bottom line. You can't have somebody, not protected. There's no workers' comp. There's nothing there. So I mean, there are legalities, there are insurance issues there. So he was clearly in the wrong there.
Yeah, and for him to try to out her on the cameras and say, "Look at me when you say that," and then 2 seconds later, John's like, "No, you have the nerve to tell her to look at you when you haven't paid her in 3 weeks and she's got 3 kids at home." Like, it's disturbing because it makes you wonder if John never went. Would this woman go for months and months and have to, you have to write it down. You have to keep in your head how much money they owe you, and that's just becomes such a scary thought for a mother who was there for her. They look like no one else was going to save her in this situation.
No, and it's the thing about it is she was probably just taking so she could provide for her family.
Of course.
I, once again, not condoning what she did, but I can understand what she did.
Of course.
Because there are places out there that, hey, if you're making tips, a lot of times, we don't have to pay them because they're making tips. And I mean, there are places out there like that, and that's ridiculous. And then to stay that long, though, that I didn't understand. But I guess because they were taking anyway, then they're like, okay, well, this is the way it's going to go down. Then I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing:
so they had justification.
A lot of times we always talk about who's going to hire them. You know what I mean? For the most part, if they're not that great of bartenders, and we can discuss them in that way. But who's going to take them? So that may be their only source of income.
I think there was a certain loyalty issue as well, particularly with Colleen, who was there a long time. She was probably the most passionate about everything and about Packy and about the business. Some of them really were just there just for a paycheck or just for a party.
With Colleen, because she in the morning she went down that list and it was pretty thorough.
Yeah.
One of the things I hate though is when someone is able to just call out all the things that are wrong, but they haven't done anything to help that. But
Right.
with Colleen, I can't put a finger on it, but I feel like she tried to help. Can you get evidence in some sort of way as to that?
Well, I mean, she spent the time first up, to come up with a list because she, cares about Packy and she cared about the business, and I truly believe that she wanted to try to help Packy get his business back. Not just for him, but for her, obviously, because she works there. That's her job. That's her source of income. In terms of doing anything to kind of help the situation, I mean, I'm not sure what she did kind of behind the scenes, kind of maybe one-on-one, having talks. I mean, she said that she tried to talk to him many occasions, but if someone doesn't want to listen, they don't want to listen. You're going to stop at some stage trying to offer advice.
Yeah, I mean, you have an Irish bar and you're out of Guinness, you're out of Bushmills, you're out of your go-tos. Those are your go-to. Yeah, you're exactly staples. And you're not. And I'm sure that even Guppy probably went, "Hey, listen, we don't have this." But Packy seems so far removed from everything. I don't know if that's what I saw.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's why he was in the kitchen. The kitchen was like his safe place. And he'd go in there, and whatever about doing the drinks orders, or I don't even know if he did the drinks orders. But clearly they didn't have what they needed for the guests.
I forget who came up with it, whether it was Kevin or I or somebody probably even better than us. But for us, it's always been about not hours worked, but tasks accomplished. So by hiding in the kitchen, you're essentially you're putting in your hours. You can say like, oh, hey, I work 100 hours, 120 hours a week in this bar. But what are you accomplishing? Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
Essentially.
Well, he was like an ostrich with his head in the sand, just there but not there, and that's what I got out of his whole thing. But he was. You're right. He wasn't accomplishing anything. But
even the wings. That was like at least put the time into that. I mean, but again, it's just you're right, an ostrich.
Yeah, he was an ostrich. And going back to the wings, because I know you had a real problem with the wings.
Yes, I was just
going to say that
was
that you're like, that's not Irish. You're like Irish passion on a plate.
I can't believe you wrote that down because I got I was watching the show last night. I was watching the show last night, and my wife's best friend lives in New York. And as soon as I said it, I was like, I don't even remember saying it. She texted. She said, "What the F is Irish passion on a plate?"
Listen,
I don't know. I was
no offense. I love my people, but we are not known for our food.
No.
So when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, bring it.
Well, I'm trying to get some fire in there. I'm trying to get to do something other than, chicken wings and onion rings. I mean, you got to give me something Irish in the kitchen. Something. I mean, listen, give me a baked potato. I don't care what it is. I need something from Ireland coming out of that kitchen, and I had nothing.
My God.
I had nothing.
And just even the fact, again, it was literally just wings. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole science, Raise the Bar. If you read Taffer's book, it talks about, constructing the menu. Obviously, you don't want it to be overcomplicated. You don't want to have too many things, but you can't have one item.
Yeah. Well, he had onion rings too, but we didn't get to taste those. And let me tell you, those wings took 40 minutes to get to get to us by the time the order went in there.
That's
40 minutes, and they were just hideous.
How about the fridge being 56 degrees?
That was a beauty, and that wasn't even the worst fridge. There was another fridge which you guys didn't see, which was just
gross.
Well, it wasn't even plugged in, so I don't know. It was. It's more of a storage container, but there was food in it.
I'm sure it had a smell to it.
Yeah,
was it just wings in there? Like, what else was it was just the wings completely, just chicken.
Just chicken all over the shop, and then there was freezer stuff.
My head went somewhere else. I don't know what's stored in there.
It was brutal. Yeah, those chicken wings. In fact, I got the chicken wings, and after I dissected them, there was a guy next to me, and I just he said it was his birthday, so I said, I bought you some chicken wings.
I don't know if that was nice or mean.
That was a nice thing to do. I'm a very nice guy.
You are. Oh my God.
So let's talk about you take Colleen under your wing.
Yeah.
But Packy's kind of helping as well. He's learning as well. And
now he has to go back to basics. He needs to learn his bar. He needs to learn the food. He needs to learn the bar, the front of house, and because if he wants to run and manage his bar, he needs to know all aspects of the bar. That's just common sense. Anybody who's in management has worked in every area of that business. So we brought him into the kitchen so I could teach him the food, so that if Colleen is not working on a day, he can take over, and he can do the food that I'm teaching them how to do, which is super basic. But it still involves some preparation and some cooking. So, we had to get him in there and trying to get some fire back in his bones. I mean, that's why I was there in the kitchen, was to try to get, to try to ignite some sort of Irish passion or something out of him, get some sort of reaction out of him.
What was your tactic? Did you,
to beat the living daylights out of him and just drive it home. What have you been doing for the past couple of years? What is the chicken wing situation? I don't understand it. Now, we did have to get some equipment in there. We got some burners so that we could make the stew and make the mashed potatoes and stuff. But I mean, you can do so much with a couple of induction burners, which soups. I mean, there's endless amount of things you can do with them. So that's what it was.
So how did you decide on the stew and the potatoes? Because I don't know much about Irish food, but what would you say is like the number one? Is that one of the staple items on a menu?
Meat and potatoes is very.
It's really, that's
what it is. It's comfort food.
It's comfort food. Okay, so that's probably
Irish soda bread.
What else would you go in for? I'm just curious, just like for Irish
the
food.
sausages.
Which looked fantastic.
And then I did a prawn cocktail, which I like the little bay shrimp over here, and then you make a rosemary sauce, which is mayonnaise and ketchup together, and you serve it on typically soda bread, but I just got some brown bread.
Caramelized onions looked amazing.
You were making large plates for people, right? Because a lot of times they'll make smaller, finger food, so people kind of socialize a little bit. But this was even the
This is
rest of
hearty food. Hearty.
Yeah.
You know, this is like you know, you want people to come into an Irish bar and you want them to stay for a long period of time. You want them to watch sports or whatever, talk with their friends, have a drink, have a plate of food, but they're having their dinner. You know, it's not an obnoxious amount of food, but it's still, you know, it's mashed potatoes and it's steak or it's sausages.
It's just different than what I would, like, I usually see French fries and, like, pickies, like, you know, so it's interesting. They're more entree types of foods, but it's a bar.
It's a bar.
Really
I mean, it's just, I mean, you know, you still do your fries and all that sort of, you know, snacky stuff like the chicken wings, but typically Irish food would be a little bit more hearty.
How do you guys all stay so svelte?
Running around the kitchen. And not eating.
But also, it's Milwaukee and Wisconsin, and I don't know if you even took this in, but they drink.
Yeah.
They're big drinkers and heavy eaters too. Okay. So that it's not like this. I don't know if this would fly in LA or anything.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
No, but it's a different mentality up there. Plus, it's coming to winter, so you know you got to feed these people up. You know, they don't want to come into a bar and have a little, you know, sandwich bite of something, little, you know, one piece of shrimp on a piece of lettuce. That's not going to fly too much. You know, they want to be fed and they want to drink and they want to feel like they're, you know, going to get the bang for their buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted those onions after. I love caramelized onions. You made some really good caramelized onions.
Nice.
Oh my God.
And the one thing I'm going to say is, like, when they go into the stress test, it was Colleen by this time. She was getting the food out. You guys had the food.
We had it, man. She was knocking it out.
She was, like, out of the park like it was no one's business.
Good for her. And she just opted to she said, I'll do it. I mean, she's not like she was trained to do it.
But I mean, she knew that the kitchen needed some help.
Yeah.
Packy couldn't do it because he now had to go back to the front of the house and learn that side of the business. So someone needed to step up, and she was in there gung ho. Yeah, she was great.
Did you, because we've seen with, I think it was Chef Brian Duffy, where he just started yelling at everybody, hey, I need runners in here. And he would, like, grab people and be like, run this food out.
Yeah.
Like, did you have a moment where you just wanted to, who could you, because you had no support whatsoever.
Whoever came in the door was handed food. I don't care who it was. There was people coming in just like, you know, people on the corner said, get the, you know, food out the door right now, because listen, if we're going to go to the trouble to make it, the guests are out there expecting it. I got to get it out the door, otherwise it's going to make us look bad. Yeah. And the food is being freshly prepared. Colleen's working her ass off in the kitchen. Let's just try to get it out the door and just feed people.
And what a waste, because it was all cold and it was actually good food.
Yeah.
Oh, it looked so good.
But you know, that's the whole stress test. I mean, that's what you want to see, where the weaknesses are. You know, that's the whole point of it. And we got a fair few of them.
What was the thing with Packy playing with the beers? I didn't quite understand that.
Well, it was just he was running around. He didn't know what he was doing.
He was trying to do like kind of what you said earlier, busy work, like do things.
But what is he doing
like
specifically?
He was like a chicken with his head cut off.
Yeah.
He was just running around, knocking into things, he was doing things but not doing anything.
Right.
And that's where John, I really loved it when he pointed it out.
Wasn't that great? Weak spot.
Yeah, weak spot.
Weak spot.
He was like, yes, spot, weak spot. And I love how, like, Packy tries to co-op, well, I need to know these things. No, you don't need to know these things. You need to know about these things, but you know. Right. Because at the end of the day, you got 4 people behind that bar, and he's right. It's already packed with 4 people, and now you're going to put this one person who doesn't know what they're doing and fiddling, faddling, and doing everything. No, he was just a waste of space, and I hate saying that's awful. I'm so sorry.
No, but it's true. It's like what Phil was saying, how you said earlier, like, you could put the hours in, but you're not actually accomplishing anything. Yeah. That's kind of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Putting in hours, not doing anything. Just getting, even once
there was no glasses.
Said, you got in my way. At one point, he said, "You got in my way," and he was just getting in the way.
Yeah, you know, I mean, he thought he was trying to be a manager and try to help, and they needed some beers, so he thought he would go in there and do that. Meanwhile, there was like 15 plates sitting in the kitchen. But you know, Taffer pointed out rightly, listen, man, you didn't know the food was there. You should have looked around the corner. It's not like it's a mile away. You just look through your little prison hole and just see where the food is. Do you know what I mean? And just get the food out the door. Enough's enough. My poor sausages are dying over here. So that's amazing.
It really points out, though, how difficult it is to manage. You don't realize till you watch just how they have to have their eyes and ears on everything at once, and they have to give direction. It's so much easier getting direction given to you and just going to do your task.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably what he was used to. He's not. He didn't seem like a guy who was used to taking care of everything. You can own something doesn't mean that you know how to do anything with, you know, or how to use it, whether it's a bar or a car or anything. If you don't know how to use it or work it, then who cares if you own it or not?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think it was Maria Menounos who said this, in terms of managing people, it's, oh shoot, how does it go? Like, the difference between someone who's just an employee, who's a leader, and a manager is a manager knows what to do next. They never go up to someone like, hey, what else needs to be done?
Yeah.
If you're a manager, you know what to do next. You're either done or you're not, you know?
Right.
So.
But that's something that you can, I think that's innate. Yeah, I mean, you can learn how to manage something, but you can't necessarily learn how to be a leader. I think, for Paki was trying to be a manager and learn how to be a manager, but he wasn't leading. You know what I mean? He was trying to, okay, you know what, I need some beers, so let me go in and take over that situation. Whereas what he should have done is delegated and overseen the whole aspect of the kitchen, the front and back of house, and been able to foresee that the food needs to go out here, needs to take orders in the back room, which, John said, go take some orders. He went in the back room. But a leader knows that needs to be done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, he was falling short in all those aspects.
Well, I think too. I mean, I don't know how much he's been out of practice, but you need some tools in your tool belt, and he just didn't have. And part of it's anticipation.
$9,000 a month. He was losing. He had what, 2,000 left?
That's all.
And he said he had 3 months. How are you losing 9,000 a month? All you have is 2,000 left. That, first of all, that math doesn't even add up.
Yeah.
You have 2 weeks if left. That's what that is. If that's all you have.
We need Jerry the accountant on this one.
Yeah.
Good old Jerry.
I should call Jerry and see how the books are looking.
And I would be remiss not to talk about Jerry.
Of course we have to talk about Jerry.
He was great. I honestly liked seeing new faces on there. We love our old faces, and they're great too. But I love seeing new faces on there. And you guys actually worked well together.
We did work well together. It was fun. It was fun.
And he seemed to, be cool with everybody about.
Well, he explained everything. But, you guys can obviously talk about the drinks. I can't speak on the art of that. But the fact that he showed him, like, hey, you guys aren't getting paid, and we understand that's not right. But if you guys are literally pouring this much in, there's nothing for you to be paid from.
Right.
Because you're pouring it out.
Yeah. But that's the whole idea about the experts coming in. Is that, it's one thing to come in all gung ho and start screaming and shouting, but the point of it is that we're trying to help them to fix the problem and trying to help them so that they can work better themselves. So the whole point of us is to come in and to teach them to do something so that they know after we're gone, because we're only there for those 5 days, and after that we're out of there. So they need to learn fast. So it just behooves us to actually want to get them involved and get them excited about learning it, as opposed to us just shouting at them, this is what you need to do, but you're not doing it. You know what I mean? You want to kind of ignite that passion with them and that fire, and that's what our job is.
Yeah, that's where John comes in too, and obviously every time he has a different tactic for instilling a newfound, inspiration for these people, and this time obviously it was, I mean, you just saw immediately how bringing, what was his name? His old boss.
Stenny.
Yeah,
Jerry Stenny.
Yeah.
Just what a difference. I mean, he sees him come through the door, and it's like...
You bollocks.
You bollocks. I thought you said there was no cursing.
Is that a curse word? I don't know.
Oh, that's unbelievable. Yeah. You just lowered the tone.
Lowered.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
Hey, they didn't bleep it on Spike, so...
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. Actually, they didn't. And if I'd known they wouldn't, I'd have been throwing it all the time, but I thought they would have bleeped it.
Can you just teach us really quick how to say the old-fashioned?
Old.
Old.
A-U-L-D. So like an owl with a D. Old.
Old.
Old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned.
That was brilliant.
I feel like Bono.
The old-fashioned.
I thought that was brilliant because at first you think like, is he making fun of him? But no, it's like, okay.
That's how he says it.
Yeah, and then to bring it back in terms of like changing something, I thought it was brilliant.
But again, that's the connection with Ireland is, you're trying to listen. The whole idea of an Irish bar, and I said this in one of the pieces we did, is a bar in Ireland is an extension of your living room. So you're inviting people into your house. That's what so it's cozy and it's warm, and that's the whole idea about the food. Is that someone's cooking for you, like your grandmother's cooking for you, and you'll have a nice drink, and there's a fireplace or whatever. So trying to give that connection that that authenticity to the homeland was trying to get them ignited and get them, get them fired up about bringing Ireland over to Milwaukee, which was the original plan, which they lost somewhere over the Atlantic.
Even if your mother's English, which we found.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that
like, well,
until
my
he said
mom's
it.
English. It's like, well, just whatever.
Well, until he said it.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, I had this whole thing. I'll just make up a story. He says my mother's English. I'm like, oh well.
But up until that point, I was like, oh, I like this feeling, cozy, warm by the fire, with some stew, and oh, my mom's English. Well, all right.
Well, you have
Still
a fireplace over there too. It'll all work out.
We all like soup. I do.
I love soup.
I love very hot soup. Though.
We're getting way off track here.
I know.
Absolutely.
Well, look, but it's actually not off track because it looked so warm and steamy when it came out.
Good.
So.
Anything else about the stress test that you guys want to discuss before we move on? All right, let's move on.
Okay, Starter and I could go on forever, but we will stop.
But but I guess if we left off kind of talking about Jerry. Steiny.
Yes, Stenny, right?
Stenny.
Stenny's his best friend. Jerry is the other expert.
Isn't he called Jerry?
Actually,
Jerry Stenny.
Jerry as well.
Jerry's,
That's right, Jerry
He's Jerry with a J.
Correct, and Jerry
The other
with a G.
Jerry is with a G.
Correct.
Like
See?
Jeff and Geoff.
That's right.
Yes.
But I thought, in terms of Taffer tactics, that was a brilliant tactic because, sometimes you bring in a parent and whatever else and you can't look the parent in the eye because, you're a failure. But now it's like, wow, I got my start from this guy and here he is telling me that he hasn't had a better employee since me.
Right.
And look at what I'm doing here.
Well, it once again goes just to show you how great John Taffer is. Once again, he finds, how can I get through to this guy? How am I going to do this so he can be successful? And he went to the source. He went and got the one person that could talk sense to him because Taffer wasn't going to be able to do it. And you saw that in the scene before.
And you would think it would have been his kids. It could have been his wife, you know what I mean? But this was actually tactically a better choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so smart.
He's a genius.
He's like, I really believe there is nothing he can't do.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think he's superhuman. I always
We're gonna pose a Taffer challenge every week and see if we can do it. All right. So let's talk about the remodel.
I loved it.
This
It was
brilliant.
so. I mean, I was really. Sometimes I get extra excited when they have the whole. They actually show it and they go inside. This time, I just had a feeling it was going to be so authentic and it just was so warm and cozy, and you just wanted to get a soup and just go sit in one of those little corners. And the privacy that you get, it's like it's not a bar. That's like a. I went to
It does look like he made it look like an Irish pub.
That's what it looks like.
That's amazing. That's how they really look.
Well, they put those snugs in there, and they have the 3 snugs, which, in essence, gives you a little bit of a private little area. You can sit down with, 4 or 6 of your friends with a table and chairs, and you could be in somebody's kitchen in the west coast of Ireland having, like, a cup of tea or, and a bowl of soup and some, homemade bread. I mean, that's what that's supposed to give you the feeling of.
Yeah.
It was so quaint.
Because even
I just loved it.
Even in Boston, like whether on Boylston Street or whatever else, you have Daisy and all these different Irish places. Nothing.
No.
I have seen nothing like this.
No,
Really?
Oh no! I mean,
Not
they have
to this
the
level.
bars. The bars themselves, yes, they have beautiful bar areas, big like plush chair. I mean, even like someone like Cheers. You think about Cheers? That's probably the closest to like
But
the
they're all
wood.
kind of generic looking,
But they're
though.
very
It's-
generic. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't look like a warm. You look like you walked in someone's home.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few places. That's why I was like shocked about Boston because I know there's a few places
There's
in
a lot
New
of
York
places, but-
that reminded me of Campbell's.
Sure.
But yeah.
Sure.
That's why I was like I was shocked because they had the nooks or the snug that you call
Snugs.
snugs.
They may
so they
have
had
one or-
like that,
I never
and
saw
it just
them.
you could stay there and literally stay there for hours.
But that's that's what the whole point of an Irish bar is that you want to feel like, you don't want to feel like you're in a club or in a bar that, the long bar and it's just a big huge room. This gives you the privacy and gives you that
Yes.
comfort of sitting down and you don't feel like you're in a bar and you'll stay there for 4 or 5 hours and you'll eat a couple of times and then you'll drink a lot, but you're still in a very comfortable environment and not in the middle of some pub where everybody's kind of knocking off you and pushing over.
Yeah, I mean, here you could play cards if you really wanted. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like you could do whatever you
You could
want.
stay there all day. You could just bring a sleeping bag.
I've done
I was
it.
well done.
I've done it.
The
I've been
wood.
there.
Oh,
Well, it
the
goes
dark
back, and
wood
once
and-
again, remember back, I think it was season 2. I think it was season 2 where they did the Black Sheep, and that was an Irish pub, totally different from this. Two totally different concept. That had the copper bar. That had everything. That's the one that they send the guys to the Guinness factory.
Yes.
And so different from this one. And I have to say, this season they have really stepped up.
Even with the firemen, one 2 weeks ago.
With what they're doing with the remodels,
it's insane.
Amazing. And this. Oh,
Did you guys catch the doorknob when you walk in? The beer. It was a
Guinness tap. Yeah.
Okay, so go back and rewind it. You'll see the Guinness tap is at the front. It's the doorknob. Genius. And they did with the fireman one. They remember they did something with the doorknob.
Oh, the hose. It was the hose. It was the nozzle.
They're really doing the little details like that. I mean, that is where have you ever seen a doorknob?
When I walked into that bar, because we walked in the afternoon just to see it, and I was blown away that they were finished so early. I mean, they had the finest details of flowers, but in the snug area they had just little copper teapots, or just like the chairs, because some of these Irish bars as well, the tables look like like your grandmother's table, but you'll have a whole different, all of the chairs will be different types of chairs. It's not like it's one set. It'll be like a chair you found over here, or a chair that came over here, and they really fine-tune those details. But I mean, to get it done in that time period, because this is, as you guys know, this is in that time period. It's not done after the show is done. When the relaunch happens on day 5, that is the bar is finished. That's just the way it is.
And it's such a good point, because it's so much more difficult finding chairs and it adds so much more charm when they're all different chairs.
Of course.
So doing that takes a lot more time. They could just order 4 chairs very easily.
I know it's not IKEA chairs. I mean, these are authentic chairs that they found, but it's just the small details that they found. I mean, it was just like, the lights over the bar. These are things that I have seen before. And then the picture of the Halfpenny Bridge, which is a very old bridge in Dublin, which of course the guys recognised straight away because they're from Dublin, which was a really, really nice touch, I thought, to put in there, just to give them that connection to home straight away, so that every day they walk in, they're seeing Dublin, which is where they're from. And I thought it was a really nice touch.
And it's a talking point too, he was saying.
Of course.
It's something that, so it's really like one of those bridges that everybody knows of.
It bridges people together.
Is it like...
Dublin is you have the north side and the south side of Dublin, and the river Liffey runs through the centre of it. So there's a series of bridges that go across. The Halfpenny Bridge, the reason it's called that is because back in the 1800s you would have to pay a halfpenny to go across the bridge. So it's the oldest bridge in Dublin. Now, it's still there now. Obviously, it's been revamped, but it still looks the same as that picture. I mean, they've kept it very, very authentic, but it doesn't cost you a halfpenny anymore. It's free.
But what a great story behind that, though.
But as you said, this is a talking point for people who would come in and say, "Oh, look, you got a picture of the bridge on your wall," but they'll tell them this is what it's about. This is from where this is where we're from. This is the story of the bridge. It's really, really, it's genius.
Really is.
In terms of the, because he was talking about the way the bottles are displayed and things like that, and he kind of went into slight detail. But I want to know, like, what is, he was saying this is more Irish versus American.
Well,
run down the list of what are the full differences. I want to know. I'm curious.
No, you go.
Well, this is your expertise.
No. You tell me about it. You were there.
Well, the Irish bars would typically have shelves, but they'd be smaller shelves with just be maybe 2 or 3 bars. Whereas the American bars, the back bars, would have the long shelves with a whole series of vodkas or whiskies. But the Irish would be kind of in columns almost. It'd be almost like a bookshelf. And you'd have a shelf. You'd have a couple of bottles here, a couple of bottles here. Again, it's giving that feeling of a living room, of a house type feel, more comfort as opposed to a kind of a mass-produced back bar. That's really what it's about.
Right.
Got it.
Oh, I definitely did that.
It was just, I just loved it so much. I could not get in the signage. Even walking in,
the whole thing.
The outside.
That was the flag. Oh, it was amazing.
It was the crest.
Yeah,
it was the family crest.
Yeah, it was the family crest, and so it gave you even more ownership of now I got to do right by me, by the family.
It's our name up there
because that's my name and that's our crest and. Yeah,
of course.
I loved it.
I did too.
He just does such a
The one thing they didn't touch on, I don't think, but in the snug room, there was a plaid or a tartan wallpaper.
Yes.
I did see that when they walked in. It was green, right?
Did he touch on that in it?
He didn't say anything about it.
He didn't really say anything.
That's from Packy's family's. That's Packy's family's tartan.
Oh.
So if you type in his name, Campbell, and you ask for the Campbell tartan. Now, a tartan is typically Scottish, but Scottish and Irish are kind of kindred spirits.
Even though Scottish hates it.
That's not the Scottish. Scottish love Irish.
No, but whenever I've talked to any of my Scottish, don't say that.
Oh, no, yeah. Whenever anyone, when they want to be Irish, that's why they're jealous of it. But the tartan is what, is what the kilts are made out of, the skirts.
Yes.
But you type in the Campbell family tartan, like a family crest, every family has their tartan. They got that wallpaper made, which is the Campbell family tartan, and they put they put that up in the wall.
I did see the dark green, right?
It was green and blue.
It was gorgeous.
Blue with hints of gold in there.
Oh, it was gorgeous.
But again, that's the connection to home, and they're just the finer details that John and all of the production crew came up with, and they decide, again, it gives Packy and Guppy to a certain extent being Irish, but more Packy, that connection to home, and again, it's also a talking point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just wallpaper.
Right.
Have you kind of kept up with the bar, and do you know how well it's doing? Obviously, we got the 6 weeks after the relaunch. It's doing really well. Have they kind of maintained that?
I actually texted Packy after the show last night just to check in, because I wanted to see if he still had my Irish stew on there, and he said that they were just packed all day yesterday. It's jammers all day yesterday for the show, which they showed last night. One of the things that I liked about doing this, and there could be a pro and a con of my first show on Rescue being an Irish bar, because I might be kind of known as the Irish guy, but the next show I did is not Irish, so that's good. But is that I had a kind of an affinity with them because I came over here the same as they did, for a better life. And I've been here for 15 years, and I came across to to kind of find my dream and to make a life for myself in the States, as both Packy and Guppy did. So I felt that kind of connection straight away with them. So it was an extra. And of course, Jerry is also ours, the exact same reason he came over here. Jerry, the accountant dude. But I mean, for us, there was sort of a more intimate connection to kind of really want to help these guys, kind of get back on track. So it was more important to us that we got that fire back, and we really wanted to help them. It's a TV show, fair enough, but it feels good to be able to help someone kind of get their feet back together. But he said the bar's doing really well, which I'm super happy about.
That's awesome.
Because there were two terrific guys, just kind of went off a little bit wayward.
And by the way, Stephen in the booth, or whoever's in the booth, just be ready for that picture that I sent you, because we're gonna have a quick talking point. You got the photo? All right, let's bring up the photo. Here we go. So, for those of you listening on iTunes, we have a photo of Gavan, we have a photo of Jerry, and John Taffer. Now, you sent this over to me.
I said that too because I thought it'd be funny. Obviously, Jerry's on the left. So we became known as Mick 1 and Mick 2, which is not derogatory at all. That's just Michael, obviously.
There you go.
So on the last day, and this is the last day, we decided to go and get T-shirts made with the Mick 1 and Mick 2 and a couple of shamrocks. We walked into the production with our two T-shirts, just so there was a distinction that there is two of us here. So we took this picture, which was pretty cool, I thought. But this is a memento for us because both of us had our first show. We both had the best experience, and the smile on John's face. That's who he is. He's very he's super passionate about what he does. That's why he gets fired up, because he wants people to be better and he wants to try to help them. And if you're making silly mistakes that you need to learn from, he's going to it's tough love. But we had the best time, so I thought it'd be funny to get some T-shirts made.
He wants the best out of everybody. I don't think I've ever met anyone like him before. He just genuinely wants to see people be the best that they can.
Sure.
And he'll try to find what it is, and he'll sit there and talk to you for hours if you're willing to listen and to want to do that stuff. We've been there, and he's awesome.
Absolutely.
But you have to be open to it, though.
Yes.
You have to be open to change. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. It could be in business, it could be in your personal life. You have to be open to want to change and to hear the information, and then it's up to you what you do with it.
Yeah.
That is very true. That is very, very true, Gavin.
Very deep. It's a bit deep.
It is deep thoughts.
It's still going through
like
me.
Gavin Murphy.
Everyone calm down.
Anyone have a deeper thought before we wrap up, or is that the last deep thought we're going to end on?
Well, I do want to know a few things about you outside of Bar Rescue, which would be, so you're in LA now. You are cooking on the health side. I know John had mentioned they were bringing someone on who was on the healthier side of cooking. So I'm thinking that's you then.
That's probably me then.
Yeah, that is probably you.
I would think so.
Yes.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So what are you doing besides Bar Rescue outside of?
Well, in terms of my, my kind of daily routine, I mean, I have clients I cook for, so I would be a personal chef, so I cook for a lot of clients who either come into town or, I have a couple of clients I go to on a regular basis, and then I have my catering business, which is the Healthy Irishman, which, catering is not necessarily the healthy side of it, because we're catering events. So, but I've done all sorts of events from 20 people up to 300 people, so we do all of that sort of stuff around town. I'm getting more into the TV stuff because I think it's, I actually enjoy it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little, something else. I mean, I never came over here, as I said, I've been here for 15 years. I never came over here with any aspirations to become, a TV person or anything. I was, I cook, so I learned how to cook, and that's pretty much, what I do. But these things seem to be coming up, and it's fun.
And you're very natural because you don't have that. I want to steal the camera right now, and I want to be in front. That's. And John seems to find all people that are just they're just so good at their job and their work, and they have such a passion for it. They don't even know the camera's there, and you're so natural. So I'm excited to see you another one too.
Thank you. I mean, it's much easier, I guess, to be passionate when this is what I do every day. It's not like I'm trying to be a TV chef or coming across as a celebrity chef, which I just can't stand that term anyway. Yeah. But this is what I do on a daily basis. I mean, tomorrow I will go, whatever, I will go cook for some clients. Maybe
someday
not tomorrow.
Again.
You know what I mean? Because I'm a huge TV star, so I don't have to. But I mean, this is what I do on a daily basis: is I go and I cook and I cater events, and so this is just something new for me, and it's fun. I'm excited
really cool.
to see what happens.
Do you have a website or anything you can put?
Yeah, GavanMurphy.com, GAVAN, just because, I don't know, I'm different. GavanMurphy.com, and all my social media stuff's all on there.
Cool.
Okay,
very
awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Gavin. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Please come by
Mia.
whenever you want to.
I would love to come back. This was awesome.
Please
This was really
do.
cool.
We'll do a cooking lesson.
There you go. And on camera cooking. We'll put something here and we'll make some.
Yeah, because we've had Mia in here making stuff.
You have?
Yeah, we've had her
Mia's
making
awesome.
a cocktail or two.
That's
So
Mia's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
So, Dorinda, where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Lula Cherry Films, and you can follow me on Instagram at DorindaB1.
And Ashley Daniels.
Twitter at Ashley Daniels. Instagram, Miss Ashley Daniels.
And, of course, follow us here at AfterBuzz TV, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And, Gavin, one more time, where can people find you, whether on Twitter or your website?
My website is gavanmurphy.com, GAVAN, and Twitter, Healthy Irishman. And IG and all that good stuff. Gavin Murphy's my IG, but Healthy Irishman is the man.
I'm following you right now.
And of course, we got to put John Taffer over. There's Bar HQ, the app. If you're a bar owner, what are you doing with your life if you haven't downloaded it already? Of course, Raise the Bar, the book that you should have read twice over by now if you haven't already done so.
I thought Kevin got us all books, though.
You didn't get yours?
No.
We'll talk about it off air.
It's okay, he got two.
We'll talk about it off air.
You're getting for Christmas.
That's right. And of course, watch Bar Rescue, because you already are, so just continue. Anyway, we'll see you here in 2015 for the next episode of Bar Rescue. Thank you for watching.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.